For 800 years, Yoda served as the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. In that time, he trained nearly every Jedi Knight in the galaxy, survived wars that wiped out entire generations, and became the living embodiment of light side mastery. Yet Canon and Legends sources reveal what would have happened if that mastery turned to darkness. A dark side Yoda would be both more powerful and more vulnerable than anyone expected. The power comes from what the dark side offers: immediate, tangible enhancement. When Luke Skywalker asked if the dark side was stronger, Yoda explained in the Empire Strikes Back film that it was quicker, easier, and more tempting. The dark side delivers power faster than the light side, which gives immediate advantages in combat and crisis. That enhancement would amplify what Yoda already possessed. Light side Yoda already demonstrated extraordinary power throughout his life. When he lifted Luke's X-Wing from the Dagobah swamp using only the Force, he moved a multi-ton starfighter from the murky depths to dry land. Yoda stood on a tree root, effortlessly gliding tons of metal and machinery through pure Force concentration. The dark side would take those same abilities and weaponize them. The dark side channels aggression, hatred, and pain into raw Force energy. A Yoda who embraced these emotions would combine centuries of technical expertise with the dark side's explosive amplification. When light side Yoda redirected a falling missile in Sean Stewart's novel Yoda: Dark Rendezvous, he gently touched it to send it away from a chateau. Dark side Yoda would simply crush the missile mid-flight or hurl it back at his enemies. Feats that required calm concentration on the light side could be achieved through pure fury on the dark side, making them faster and more destructive in the short term. His combat abilities would be equally transformed. In the Revenge of the Sith film, light side Yoda fought Emperor Palpatine to a standstill in the Senate chamber. A dark Yoda, unrestrained by Jedi ethics and fueled by rage, might have overwhelmed Palpatine entirely. His small size, which he used defensively, would become an offensive advantage. Opponents would face a nearly impossible target moving with Force-enhanced speed and striking with centuries of saber mastery. Beyond direct combat, dark side Yoda would gain access to abilities that light side Jedi cannot use. Force lightning, Force choking, and other offensive techniques would become available. With his exceptional control and understanding of the Force's nature, he could master these powers quickly. Where it took Vader years to develop his choking technique, Yoda would perfect it in weeks or days. His knowledge of anatomy from teaching countless younglings would let him target vital organs and neural pathways with deadly accuracy. Perhaps most dangerous would be his influence over others. Yoda trained thousands of Jedi throughout his life. He understood how people think, how they learn, how they resist, and how they break. The novel describes teaching as entirely instinctive to Yoda, an impulse as natural and automatic as breathing. A dark Yoda could corrupt Jedi with frightening efficiency, knowing exactly which words to use, which doubts to exploit, which temptations would prove irresistible. Every Jedi he taught, every Padawan he trained across centuries, would become potential targets. Seeds of doubt planted long ago could be activated with a single word. The Jedi Order would face an enemy who knew all their techniques, all their philosophy, and all their weaknesses. That knowledge extended to large-scale warfare as well. Light side Yoda rarely used battle meditation, but a dark version would employ it without restraint. This ability allows Force users to influence the morale and coordination of entire armies. Whole fleets could be paralyzed with fear or driven to reckless aggression, while ground forces collapsed into confusion. The Grand Master's presence would decide battles before the first shot was fired. All these advantages together mean the opening months of a Dark Yoda's reign would present an unparalleled threat. The Jedi Order could not stand against their former Grand Master, and if the Jedi fell, no military force in the galaxy would dare intervene. Unlike other Sith, Yoda would have no immediate visible weaknesses. Palpatine needed to hide his identity. Dooku faced political constraints, and Vader's severe injuries required constant mechanical support. Dark Yoda would arrive as a complete package: Master Warrior, perfect manipulator and legitimate authority figure who had earned respect across thousands of worlds. For weeks, perhaps months, he would seem unstoppable. However, the dark side always extracts a price, and the Sith themselves understood what that destruction would look like. The dark side consumes what it touches. In the Clone Wars episode Sacrifice, Yoda faced a vision where Darth Sidious, the future Emperor Palpatine, tried to corrupt him. The vision offered Yoda exactly what he desired most: the power to save Anakin Skywalker and defeat the Sith permanently. Yet, he refused. Sidious later admitted to Count Dooku that they had failed to break Master Yoda, acknowledging his strength made him impossible to turn. Yoda rejected the dark side through understanding, not ignorance. The series also showed him facing a physical form of his own darkness. The shadow grew aggressive and mocking, demanding to know why Yoda hated what gave him power. He first tried to reject it completely, but the Force priestesses explained that denying the dark side simply gives it more power. Yoda's strength came from accepting the shadow as part of himself while keeping control over it through patience and training. Fully giving into the dark side would mean abandoning that control entirely. The dark side offers quick power but demands constant fuel from suffering, anger, and hatred. Yoda's self-sufficient mastery worked on completely different principles, and the corruption would not happen all at once. Yoda explained to Luke that once someone starts down the dark path, it dominates their destiny forever through gradual consumption. The first use of Force lightning would feel like power, the second would feel necessary, and the third would feel natural. Each act of aggression would make the next easier, lowering the threshold until casual cruelty became an automatic response. This corruption would blind him to consequences. Luceno's work reveals how Yoda and the Jedi Council would double their meditation sessions trying to peer into the future, only to discover it was clouded and unknowable. A corrupted Yoda would lose one of his greatest abilities, sensing outcomes before they occurred. The Force would still flow through him, but twisted into a distorted lens showing only what fed his anger and ambition. Each lost ability would speed the decline of others. Without foresight to avoid traps, spiritual connection to preserve warnings, or the ability to sense true intentions, paranoia would replace wisdom, and the apprentice's betrayal would become inevitable. Within years, these losses would build on each other until complete collapse. By losing control, the dark side would rob him of his greatest achievement, spiritual immortality. The Force priestesses revealed that only a few Jedi could stay conscious after death. On Moraband, an ancient Sith planet, ghost-like forms of dead Sith warriors told Yoda there was no life after death, only nothingness fueled by fear and hunger for power. The Sith worldview centered on taking power from fear and death, with no continuation beyond physical life. A dark Yoda would face complete extinction instead of spiritual survival. Physical death would come faster than spiritual death. The rule of two, the Sith's doctrine of having only one master and one apprentice at a time, exists specifically because Sith keep killing each other. Darth Bane, an ancient Sith Lord who appeared to Yoda in a vision, explained that the Sith had killed each other as victims of their own greed. From the ashes of that destruction, Bane chose to pass his knowledge to only one apprentice. The Darth Plagueis novel confirms this inevitability. Even the most powerful Sith Lord, who can control midichlorians and extend life, was killed by his own apprentice while he slept. Sith Lord Gravid, who tried to merge light and dark side teachings, met the same fate after being driven mad by his attempts. Power attracts challengers in Sith tradition, and a corrupted Yoda would face the same inevitable betrayal no matter how strong he was. The dark side would also accelerate Yoda's physical decline. By age 900, Yoda was nearing his natural limits. Stewart's novel Yoda, Dark Rendezvous portrays him feeling the weight of age and war. The light side had sustained him for 9 centuries, but he was approaching the end of even his extraordinary longevity. The dark side visibly destroyed Emperor Palpatine's appearance and Darth Vader's body, potentially reducing Yoda's remaining years to mere months. Yoda's species may not even be compatible with the dark side at a biological level. When the Jedi Council examined him in the Clone Wars episode Voices, they noted that a specific part of his brain was more active than any other Jedi they had seen. This unique brain structure, at nearly 900 years old, enabled exceptional Force sensitivity. This may suggest his species is naturally attuned to channeling life energy rather than destructive forces. Yoda explained to Luke that life creates the Force and makes it grow, describing a connection to living things that the dark side fundamentally opposes. Where the light side draws power from creation and growth, the dark side feeds on death and decay. The Force priestesses confirmed what his biology suggested. They revealed his destiny was already set. He would teach one who would save the universe from great imbalance. His species had not evolved for domination, but for preservation. Darkside corruption would not simply weaken this natural alignment, but sever his biological connection to the Force entirely, destroying the very physiology that made him powerful. His body itself appeared designed for light side channeling. His physiology worked as a living conduit for the Force, channeling life energy with extraordinary efficiency. The dark side's corrupting nature might damage this biological system entirely. Beyond his physical design, teaching defined his very nature. Yoda spent most of his time in the Jedi Temple with very young children, teaching through games and play, his small size an advantage when working with younglings. The dark side's philosophy of domination and destruction directly opposes this nurturing orientation. The contradiction between his biological nature and dark side requirements might create internal conflict that would destroy him from within. The mental deterioration would match the physical decay. In Yoda Dark Rendezvous, Count Dooku's answer to Yoda's old question about existence changed after turning to the dark side. The nature of beings became defined by complete isolation. This loneliness is not accidental, but inherent to the dark side's structure. Even the closest Sith partnerships are built on mistrust, with Plagueis explaining that jealousy and suspicion are intrinsic to their nature. Every conversation becomes a power game. Every gesture carries hidden meaning, and cooperation dissolves into paranoia. Yoda spent centuries building relationships through genuine trust and teaching, thriving on connections to thousands of Jedi, younglings, and the living Force itself. The dark side would sever these bonds systematically. Former students would become enemies, the Force would become a weapon instead of a companion, and teaching would transform into manipulation. Within months, the ancient Jedi who spent centuries surrounded by life and light would find himself completely alone, his greatest strength corrupted into devastating weakness. The core difference comes down to creation versus consumption. When Count Dooku explained the dark side's power, Yoda challenged him to make a rose. Dooku admitted the Force cannot create life from nothing, but Yoda stated that his Force does exactly that. The dark side can only consume and corrupt. Yoda's philosophy also accepted what the dark side denies. Loss is inevitable. He understood that what he loved would be taken from him eventually, and no power could prevent that. The dark side promises power over death, but this promise proves empty. In Darth Vader Issue 1 by Charles Soule, Palpatine reveals this limitation directly. Padme is dead, and even the power of the dark side cannot bring her back. Yoda counseled Anakin in Revenge of the Sith to train himself to let go of everything he feared to lose, teaching that attachment leads to jealousy and greed. This demonstrates Yoda's acceptance of loss as natural, where the dark side promises to prevent it, a lie Palpatine used to turn Anakin. Beyond failing to conquer death, the dark side demands absolute servitude. The Sith architect Momin explains in Darth Vader Issue 24 that the dark side does not serve its users, but rather users serve the dark side. Yoda's philosophy works in reverse, where the Force serves those who understand it. This creates an inescapable trap. Those who serve the dark side become enslaved, while those who try to control it face destruction. This philosophical difference shaped how Yoda wielded power. After failing to defeat Palpatine, Yoda went into exile to prepare Luke for the future, rather than seeking revenge. He accepted defeat in one battle to enable victory in the larger war through patience and vision. The Sith feared him not for his combat abilities, but for his wisdom. The dark side would give Yoda everything except what made him truly dangerous: the ability to wait, to accept, to think beyond immediate victory. For a few terrifying months, the galaxy would face the most powerful Sith it had ever seen. Then, the apprentice would strike. The body would fail. The isolation would become unbearable. And another cautionary tale would join the long history of Sith who believed they could be the exception. Wisdom cannot be corrupted into strength. It can only be destroyed. Understanding why this corruption would inevitably fail requires examining what made Yoda powerful in the first place. His species possess force sensitivity on a level that far surpasses most other beings in the galaxy, creating biological advantages the Jedi Order never fully explained. These natural traits made him resistant to temptations that destroyed countless other Force users throughout history. This unusual resistance, however, raised questions even among his closest students. Count Dooku spent decades as Yoda's student and came to suspect his master knew far more about the dark side than any Jedi should. The investigation into Yoda's species and what Dooku discovered about his former master's training exposes secrets the Jedi Council intentionally kept hidden for centuries. Watch these videos next.